Looks like I'm live. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me today. Welcome to Home of the Neon Alliance, the first and only talk call-in show dedicated to the simulation hypothesis. I am the one and only RAO, and I had talked a little bit about it last week during my debate with Tommy Wood, and I wanted to bring it up and go into further detail now. I was looking at this at the Fibonacci sequence just as this was actually back when I was a theist, when I believed in a God that ran things and was benevolent and that kind of stuff. Well, I guess benevolence a bit of a strain on the word. Give me just a minute. My computer is catching up to my my computer's catching up to my broadcasting software, so it might be just a second. Let's see. We're gonna give it just a bit to see if we can get it going. All right. It looks like it's settled itself out now. So, yeah, basically the Fibonacci sequence is the golden ratio, the 1 1 2 3 5 8 13 21. It's the formula for a perfect spiral, and a lot of math fanatics are thinking about it kind of as kind of the code of the universe, just because it is so prevalent everywhere that you look. You'll see this, and that could be a matter of confirmation bias for once you're looking for something, you're going to see it. But this seems like it's more than that based on the amount of people, based on the amount of time. It doesn't seem like an isolated pattern because multiple people individually or independently have come up with it. Now, this is going to take a lot of math, so I'm going to switch the screen over to something that you're going to be able to follow along with me on. If you want to, you can follow at home, pen and paper. You can look up what I'm telling you, so you know that I'm not messing with you. But I want to play a game with you today, and the name of this game is, we're going to look over here so I can show you what's going on here. These are your game pieces. These are the things that, oh, it is so hard. I am so sorry. Yeah, that should work a lot better. I hope I was being loud enough. My mic was pointed way over there. Let's see, did I get anything telling me about it? No. Well, anyway, I want to play a game with you. The object of this game is to keep 1 equals 1 true, and 0.75 over 1 is equal to 75 over 100 true. That's all you have to do, is keep these two things true. And my job is going to be to prove one of them false. So we go to the next page, and this is the Fibonacci sequence that you know. 1 1 2 3 5 8 13 21 34 55 89 144. Basically, you add 1 and 1, you get 2. You add 2 and 1, you get 3. You add 2 and 3, you get 5. 5 and 3 is 8. 8 and 5 is 13, so on and so forth. And it comes out to a ratio of 1.614. Now, this is base 12 mathematics. Oh, no, it's not. I messed something up here. Okay, no I didn't. No I didn't. Everything's fine. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is a single digit number. 11 is a single digit number. And this is 12. One doesn't. If you're American, you can think about it like the foot to the inch. 12 inches to a foot. So this is 1 foot 1, 1 foot 2, 1 dozen 1, 1 dozen 2. And it goes all the way, I just counted up to 24, 2 dozen. So that you could get an idea of what's going on. Now, this is the Fibonacci sequence in base 12. And the Fibonacci sequence in base 12 looks a little bit different. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 1 dozen 1, 1 dozen 9, 2 dozen 10, 4 dozen 7, 7 dozen 5, 1 gross. And count with me here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 iterations into the Fibonacci sequence. And you get a perfect gross. Every 12 iterations of the Fibonacci sequence in base 12 gives you a perfect gross. And first of all, this makes the golden ratio look a little bit prettier, and I like that. I like when my golden ratio looks a little bit prettier. Because I think in the in base 10, every 5th and 15th, yeah, basically every 5th one that isn't a 10th one, the number ends in 5, and I'll show you that here in just a second. Go back here. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. So I guess it is every 5 of them. It ends in a 5. But every 12 of these ends in a perfect gross. And that looks much neater to me. There's other reasons that base 12 looks a lot neater. I'm not going to go into all those right now. But this is just the reason that's relevant that base 12 looks better to me. Now remember your game rules. 1 equals 1. And 0.75 over 1 equals 75 over 1 gross. We're switching to base 12 now. I'm not going to do anything funny and say this is base 10 and this is base 12. No, we're not going to do that. So the golden ratio in base 12 comes to 1.7411. And that is really close to 0.75. But we also see right here that 75, 7 dozen 5, is the number preceding 1 gross in base 12 Fibonacci sequence. So we come back and we count down the Fibonacci sequence from 1 gross. 7 dozen 5, 4 dozen 7, 2 dozen 10, 1 dozen 9, 1 dozen 11, 8, 5, 3, 2, 1. And then you've got this number right here. Now, the object of this game is to tell me that both of those game pieces are still true. Let's look back. 1 equals 1. 0.75 over 1 equals 75 over 100, 1 gross. If you tell me that this number is 1, then you are telling me that 7 dozen 5 over 100 is not equal to 0.75 over 1. But if you're telling me that this number is 1, or if you're telling me that it's 0.75, then you're telling me that 1 no longer equals 1. So in order to give this number a value, either this has to be false or this has to be false. Now, how do you keep both of those being true and give that number a value? That's what we see here. But if we use this and call it 0.75 when we're counting down, then we get 0.47, 0.2x, or 0.210, 0.19, 0.11, 0.08, 0.05, 0.03, 0.02, 0.01, 0.0075. And we can count down infinitely. Now, the other thing I want you to think about, that if we were counting down infinitely using 0.75 instead of 1, what we would notice in spirals is a 2-to-1 shift. When you're looking at something with a big 1, like let's say the center of a galaxy is a big 1, and you've got spirals that come off of it. Whereas a seashell, a snail shell, its spiral has a very small one. So when you link the two together, you should expect a 2-to-1 shift. 2 to 1 to 0.75, if I'm right. So we go over here, and this is the part that I want mathematicians to look at. I want you to tell me if I'm talking out my ass or if I'm onto something here. We're going to look at this picture of the galaxy. And inside, you can see that I have put a little snail shell there. So we zoom in. Get that right up there where we can zoom in a couple of more times. And I can move this over for you. But what we see here is when we get to that 1, we have a 1-to-1 to 0.75. Because we can't get smaller than that galaxy, because that is just a dot right there. I got this picture, the picture of the galaxy from NASA, and the snail came from, the snail came from a PNG site. But when we open this, we open the spiral galaxy, you can see that all that area that was being covered up was just a light. It was too small for us to look at. So we go back to that and put the snail there. And what we get is a 1-to-1 to a 0.75. So, oh, everything went fucked up. Hold on, I'll show you here in just a little bit. Give it just a moment. I'm so sorry about this. I don't know why it's been doing this to me lately. What I can actually do is I could probably close out some processes and, oh, it decided to unfuck itself for a little bit. All right, there was a moment of clarity, but let's go ahead and start up the task manager, and I am going to get rid of some of these bigger processes. Let me get rid of just a couple of more to make sure that we've got everything going on properly. Okay, I'll show you this one more time because it decided to go bad on me. You can see right here that we've got this 1-to-1 ratio where this is almost a straight line here. And then when we get to here, it goes to that 0.75 ratio. So we see physical evidence of this mathematical proof. We see exactly what the math predicts would happen if the universe had some kind of fail-safe to keep it from, well, to make sure that it can be observed at all levels of magnification. That's phenomenal to me. If we have a code written into the universe that makes it possible for the spiral of a seashell to correct itself when overlaid on top of a galaxy. And like I said, I stumbled across this. This is something I looked into. I thought it was interesting, and then I started looking at it in base 12. And in base 12, the Fibonacci sequence does something different. Alright, that is today's lecture. I am going to open up the phone lines. And thankfully, I've kind of figured out a little bit more about what to do here. I've recently started up the Patreon. Oh, hold on. Let me go ahead and answer this. Good evening. Welcome to Home of the Neon Alliance. Who is this and where are you calling from?
This is Tommy.
Oh,
Ralph.
Tommy, from last week, the debate.
Yeah,
How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great. I got the day off, so I'm just kind of, like relaxing and really getting into your stuff. I needed something.
Would you mind turning down your set in the background? I'm getting a lot of feedback from you. It's making it hard to hear.
Yeah. Okay, the speakers are off.
Now, did you want to touch on the Fibonacci sequence this week, or did you have a different claim that you were going to bring to me this week?
No, I don't have an opposing claim. I just want to learn more about the basis that the Fibonacci sequence has on reality itself, as far as expressing itself as the universe or whatever. I guess it has some sort of underlying you know self-existence to ex- express itself in the universe. That's why we see it, right?
Well, I used to call this show The Atheist Experience on YouTube. And this was back when I was a theist, when I was a believer. And
Uh,
my argument was going to be that the Fibonacci sequence would be some kind of like trademark or imprint for God, because
uh,
that's what it looked like based on what I thought evidence was.
uh,
But let's take the argument with your assumptions. If we are a simulation, as we can see from the Planck constants and the quantum eraser experiment, then we have that rendering thing where we don't need to see what atoms look like until we're looking for atoms. When we're looking that
yeah,
small,
yeah,
that's when atoms start rendering, because at that point we need to see them. So what
exactly.
I'm
Nothing detail unless we look more closely at it.
what I'm saying is that this Fibonacci spiral, when you break it down in base 12, it creates like a failsafe for when you're looking down into something. It has that way to go where it knows what shape to take. But it's at
So
that
what is base 12? I'm not familiar with base 12. I don't know what that means.
base 12. Well, you know binary, right?
Yeah, ones and zeros.
Right. Now, it's called binary because the first two decimal number is 2. You know, are you familiar with hexadecimal?
No.
Okay, it's a computer coding language. It uses 16 letters, or it uses 16 numbers, 1 through
Uh,
9, and then A, B, C, D, E,
uh,
maybe F. But it's got 16. It's got 15 different numbers, and 16 is represented as 1 0. Now,
gotcha.
with base 12, it's the same concept, except for 10 and 11 are single digit numbers. I used X and L, and
Yeah, I remember seeing that on your presentation earlier.
12 is represented as 1 0. It's the first two-digit number.
Uh,
So a gross 144 12 times 12 would be represented as 100.
and I was curious earlier when it seemed like you were referencing a gross as counting by tens. It's like you were calling 100 a gross, but 144 is a gross, which is 12 times 12. But it
Right,
seems like
but
you're
yeah,
referencing dozens
when
tens.
12 is represented as 100, then or 1 0, then you're counting in
Uh,
dozens. So it's going to be 1 dozen times 1 dozen equals 12 dozen, a dozen dozens. So that's why you're getting 100 instead of 144.
is it sort of a transposition of the numbers to make 100 equal 144, or what is? I don't
Okay.
understand.
Um yeah, the fact that you're changing the tens digit by 2 spots,
Uh-huh.
you count to 20 in base 10, or 2 dozen in base 12. Now you're off by 4. Then you count to
Oh,
30 and 3 dozen, and your 30 is off by 6.
okay. So it's a methodology of counting.
Yeah, it's a numerical system. Yes, it's a way to count that uses two more numbers than ours does.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And I started looking at like just the way that it breaks down better, because that's why bakers use a dozen, is because it's easier to make dozen rectangles than it is 5 by 2s.
Well, Baker's dozen is 13.
No, bakers. All right, all right. Way to go, clever one. But no, that's why
Yeah,
bakers use the dozen pans, is because you can go 12 by 1, 6 by 2, 3 4 by 3, 3 by 4, 2 by 6, 1 by 12. Whereas
yeah.
with base 10, all you get is 1, 2, 5, and 10. Those extra numbers let you break it down easier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think we're doing math wrong in general. I think we ought to just switch to base 12 because it's a better numerical system.
I mean, yeah. Um, I would agree with that. I mean, we definitely need something can agree on throughout the world, because the rest of the world besides America is on the metric system and we're on the standard system. So we go by 12, and everybody else goes by 10. You know, it doesn't really make any sense how America is different on that measurement system.
Well, I think I finally figured out what was killing my bandwidth last time, because my video is cut to nothing. But I
uh,
think we are going to call that an episode for the day, because if I can't get any video out, then I can't do anything. So I'm gonna keep padding at this. Tommy, thank you for your call. And if my street, oh, we're never mind, we're back and going. But is there anything else that you wanted to ask me about, or anything else that you didn't understand?
um, no, no, I think you basically helped me get a better understanding by through answering my questions that I did have, and yeah, I have a better grasp upon Fibonacci sequence now. Like as far as the two previous numbers add up to the third number, and it's based on a sequence of 12. So that does make a lot of sense, because we have standard in America, which is based on the foot, which is 12 inches, but everybody else goes on the decimal system, which is by 10. Like there are different ways of counting, and you know it'd be better if we could agree on something worldwide. But I guess it is what it is at this point.
Well, the metric system did us really good for a long time, just because we've got 10 fingers.
Uh huh.
And so it seemed like the best one to use for what we were doing. But at the same time, now that we've grown from that, there's not really, it's basically time to grow up and put that one away, because it's
Uh
not a good tool compared to what we have. And that was kind of like what I was talking about with you about the God of the Gaps fallacy, is that we had the God there because we didn't have another way to explain it. So
huh.
why do we keep the God once we have the way to explain it and don't need the God anymore?
Well, just because you can explain a guy doesn't necessarily mean that you don't need it.
No, 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 no. Not explain God, because we haven't even gotten to explaining God yet. We like God's still an unfalsifiable, sitting on the poor end of the spectrum. But
Uh,
what I'm saying is that we found the explanation for thunder. So we don't need a Thor now that we have an explanation with static electricity. Like we didn't have the science there to have an explanation. So we
Hmm.
put God in that spot. But then God is slowly rescinding into nothing because we're learning more. And every time we learn more, it's like, well, God's in this spot where we can't get to next. And I don't want to do the same thing with the simulation hypothesis that the church did to space.
Yeah, you want it to be more conclusive and understanding,
Well, no, if it gets down to it and we get to past like the 8th, 10th, 27th dimension, however many it goes down, we get to a finite spot and see a singular being. Yes, that has the attributes for what I would call God, but we don't have any evidence of that. And all we have
well,
for the universe above or below ours is speculation.
yeah, I mean that's one way to look at it. But when we look at the evidence as far as quantum physics, we see that there's particle duality, and there's a transference of particle knowledge to particle knowledge, and there's transference of human knowledge between particle knowledge. And it's the underlying substrata of the universe. The substrate of the universe carries the knowledge that we have, reflected upon our ability to experience it. I mean, that just automatically denotes consciousness of the universe.
Not necessarily, because all you're really talking about is it being on the same hard drive. We haven't even gotten to talking about a conscious entity yet, because for data to have an effect on itself at all times. I mean, have you played Ocarina of Time?
I mean, I'm not really into video games, but I do understand the concept of how realities can be created within realities, and
No, no,
that
no. I'm
we,
I'm talking about something completely different right now. This is
uh,
kind of getting into time travel, where when young Link does something, it immediately affects a different part of the game at a different time because there's a 7 year gap between young Link and old Link. So when you got that gap going on, and one thing is immediately affecting another thing in the future, then what we're dealing with now is just it's all part of the same program. That's all we have evidence of.
yeah, we're all part of the same program. I would agree with that.
Right, and that's all that's the only thing that you can prove or have any evidence to make a claim for is that all of this universe is all part of this universe. As for anything outside of the universe, like I said, whatever it is speculation. But to call it God,
So we
just
have to look within the evidence that we see and can discover through our own universe to explain what lies beyond it. Would that even be possible?
well, hold on. I was about to explain that to you.
Uh,
We have evidence that it's all part of the same universe, but the the thing going on outside of this universe is completely unknown to us. So
but
we have
we can see that there is an outside of this universe
we
due
have
to like
evidence that this is a simulation, But no, we don't have an evidence of an outside of the universe. We just have
Well,
evidence that
part-
we are in a simulation.
particles communicate with each other outside of the simulation, i.e., quantum entanglement.
No, quantum entanglement just means that they operate. Like I said, quantum entanglement, all that means is spooky action at a distance, things occurring at different times,
No, it's
or at the
particles
same
sharing.
time, regardless of distance. That's what quantum entanglement is.
Particles are sharing information with each other at any distance, unlimited.
Exactly,
So
yes, they are sure. Nobody's arguing that point. And all that is evidence of is that we are part of the same universe. That is all part of the same program. Okay,
no,
there.
but it explains that there's an outer part of the universe that exists so that the particles can communicate with each other immediately over any distance. Like it's not limited by the speed of light.
Okay, we can presume that there is an outside of the universe taken, and so all these things that have nothing to do with your actual character are getting thrown into a mathematical algorithm for that boss to fight
That
you in a
that
different way every time unless you play the game the exact same way every time. And all those are factoring in all the time. So all you have said is that this universe is all part of the same program.
we'll see when you give the program ideas about how to counteract your behaviors, such as your playing methods and whatnot, how many times you jump and etc. Like you were saying, that gives the algorithm reason enough to deduce how you will behave in future situations. That's why it attacks you in such a way as it does. And that gives a higher level of thought to the algorithm itself than the humans playing the game. Would you not agree with that?
Right. Now, for my next question, what does
Uh,
any what does any one of those characters inside of the game know about our universe?
Nothing at all because they're just characters in the game.
Right. So basically, life outside of the universe is a strong hypothesis,
uh,
but we have no way to yet test for it. So I think that based on our reality, whatever is outside of our universe is more than likely another society, not a god, another society with many games like ours, like our universe.
I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I believe that there's an outer society and it's more real than what we can experience in this place. But in the outer place, we would be more on the higher level as far as playing the games instead of experiencing the game.
Right. So with the knowledge that we have, the question
Uh,
the question 2, does the simulation hypothesis support a God claim, is not any more or less than anything else has. Because we haven't proven or shown evidence for a God. What we see is evidence for another screwed up society like ours that's playing video games to relax. Or somebody that's facing a future society that is facing a climate catastrophe and they want to know how would they be able to do it if their technology was knocked back a century. So
uh,
they're running a civilization that's faced with climate change with technology knocked back a century back from theirs. that's plausible as well. But we don't see any God character. We just see something else. And we don't have any evidence for what that something else is. So to start speculating on it is inherently flawed from the get.
I mean, I would agree, but also as human beings, we like to have hope and dreams about the future, and like conjecture about what may be lying beyond, and that's just part of human experience is conjecture and hope and belief about what lies beyond. And though we all have different ideas about it,
Well, let me put it
though
to you like this. I hope there is an afterlife, but I don't think there is one.
I mean, I would imagine it just being a society, an evolved society,
Unless we're
just on a
just
high.
data. If we're just data, then we get wiped from the memory card and we get repurposed for filing somebody's taxes.
Well, see, the way I look at it is, what is the human condition? We're born, and we learn and we grow and we try to find a mate, and we try to what make babies, right?
Well,
To
that's so
create.
far you're not
So,
talking about. So far you're not talking about the human condition. You're talking about the condition of life as a whole.
yeah.
Unless
So
we're talking about single cellular life and asexual life. But yeah, born,
life in general tends
reproduce, die.
to generate. Yeah. So why can't that be extrapolated into the bigger picture in that universes create universes, or God has created the life within us to because what I'm saying is humans could be children, and we grow into these entities of a technological nature that exists outside of the universe that we exist in.
You're talking about a lot about coulds, but like I said, it's all speculation, and the answer is I don't know. I mean, you're asking
Yeah.
really good questions, but when you start trying to answer it with a God claim, and then you see that you can't answer for what if who is God's God. You can't answer for even if there is a God's God, and if there is a God's God, who's God's God. We can't answer for that. We can't see a being that is worthy of being worshipped if we're seeing like childhood cancer. There are hospitals that are dedicated to childhood cancer. Any benevolent God that should be worshipped would have the like foresight to you know what, let's take childhood cancer off the list of ways people can suffer and die.
Mm.
And so we don't have a God that's worthy of worship. And when we equate a simulation to our reality, for you to say make a God claim is for you to say that pro level gamers and gaming developers are equal to gods. And I can't think that like Shigeru Miyamoto is the god of Metroid, nor can I think that Zosti is the god of Metroid. I mean, they are both extremely talented human beings, but they're just humans, they're just people. And so
Mm.
I'm at the just people stage. If there's something out there, there's nothing supernatural about them.
Um, yeah, I mean, I see the relativistic nature that your conversation or argument is taking, but as far as a higher level, when we think about the progeneration of life on Earth, we see there is a higher level, and if we look towards the structure of reality itself, we can see that everything exists in a hierarchy. So there must be something, beginning the outline, as far as a hierarchy top level. It's not necessarily a given, as you say, but that's just it's how I feel personally, because I feel like I can communicate, with the substance of the universe. I feel like on a deeper level. So I kind of feel like there is personality to the universe.
Well, you know what? I am going to cut this off because we've been going for about 46 minutes and I still got to do my outro. But
Uh-huh.
just like last week, well, last week we brought up a really interesting experiment. But this
Yeah.
week you brought something up that I'd like to talk about next week. Uh,
Cool.
because we were talking about everything has to begin from something. And I've got an explanation. I don't know if anybody wants to hear it or not. Well, I got a plausible explanation. I don't know if anyone wants to hear it or not, but it's about time.
I would be interested to hear it on the next episode. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to get this off here. I'm going to get the intro done so I can get the show done, and we'll be sure to clip this and get this phone call on the air probably Wednesday or Thursday.
Cool. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. Good talking with you.
Oh, great to talk to you as well, Tommy. You have an amazing day.
All right. Thanks. Bye bye.
All right. So, yeah, next week, um, I'd like to talk about a plausible origin for the universe. Our universe, anyway. And in the meantime, I've got the new Patreon up, the one and only RAO on Patreon. I've also got my Twitch network, the one and only RAO. That's where I'll do a lot of my casual gaming and stuff like that. I've got the one and only RAO YouTube, and that's my highlights reel. It's been neglected. It has. But there are several ways to find me. Make sure to leave comments if you have an idea for another episode. Make sure to get them likes and subs in if you wanna keep seeing this show continue, progress. And until next time, keep it real.